Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a family drama that's so tangled, it ended up in court. It's a story about money, responsibility, and what happens when family ties get strained after a loved one passes away. So, here's the scene. A mother, her son, and her brother are all in court. The mother, let's call her Ms. Link, claims both her brother and her son owe her money. The dispute revolves around expenses related to her late husband, who was the father of her son and the brother-in-law of her brother. Sounds complicated, right? Let's break it down. The judge starts by trying to understand the family dynamics, which is always key in these cases. She asks Miss Link about her husband. He was in a nursing home for 6 years before he passed away. The judge then asks a crucial question. Were you living together as a married couple before he went into the nursing home? Miss Link hesitates and then admits they weren't. The last time they lived together as a couple was way back in 1993. That is over 2 decades of separation. So, for 22 years they were married on paper but lived separate lives. The judge wants to know where the husband was living all that time. Miss Link says he lived with her daughter. The son then chimes in, clarifying that his dad stayed with a bunch of different relatives, including himself. The judge turns to the brother and asks if the father ever lived with him. He says no. The son tries to explain that his father wasn't living alone. He was always with family, bouncing between relatives. The judge cuts through the confusion, getting to the core point. The parents hadn't been a real couple for more than 2 decades, even though they never officially divorced. Everyone agrees. This context is vital for what comes next. Now, let's get to the money. The father passed away on November 3, 2013. This is where the lawsuit gets specific. Miss Link has 3 main claims. First, while her father-in-law was in the nursing home, she decided to take out a life insurance policy on him. She says she had an agreement with her brother that he would pay for half of the premiums. To do this, Ms. Link legally became her husband's guardian. She also spent money on a lawyer to get that guardianship established. So, she chose the insurance policy, paid the premiums, and now she wants her brother to reimburse her for his half. Simple enough, right? Well, not exactly. Here's the major twist. According to the brother, Ms. Link either didn't read the fine print on the insurance policy or didn't fill out the application correctly. Why does he say that? Because when the father passed away, the insurance company refused to pay out the death benefit. The reason they gave was a pre-existing condition. So, all that money spent on premiums went down the drain. The policy was worthless. The judge lays it out very clearly. She looks at Miss Link and says, "So far, is that correct?" Miss Link admits, "So far." The judge then delivers her first ruling on this part of the claim. She tells Miss Link that her brother is not responsible for half of the premiums. Her reasoning is sharp and direct. She explains that if you take on the responsibility of being someone's guardian, especially for someone who is incapacitated, you have a duty to handle their affairs properly. The judge states that Miss Link was clearly negligent in how she handled the life insurance application. The proof is simple. The insurance company didn't pay. Therefore, the judge isn't going to force anyone to pay for half of a policy that was mismanaged and ultimately provided no benefit to anyone. But Ms. Link wants to defend herself. The judge allows it, but only if she has facts to correct. Ms. Link explains that she's the youngest of her siblings and wasn't aware of her father-in-law's old medical history. She only knew about his recent health issues from the doctors. She insists that she and her brother had a clear agreement to split the costs before she even bought the policy. The judge isn't swayed. She points out that as the legal guardian, Ms. Link had the right and the ability to access all of her husband's medical records. There was no excuse for not knowing his full medical history. The judge also highlights a very telling detail from the complaint form. Ms. Link herself wrote that her husband had been in a nursing home for 6 years. This proves she knew he was not a healthy man when she applied for the insurance. It wasn't a secret that he was ill. Then, the judge asks the million-dollar question. By the way, who was the beneficiary of that policy? Miss Link quietly replies, me. This is a huge moment. She stood to be the sole person to gain financially if the policy had paid out. Her brother wouldn't have received a dime. So, she was asking him to share the risk and the cost, while she alone would have received the entire reward. The judge sees this as fundamentally unfair. With that part of the case dismissed, the judge says, let's move on to number 2. What do you all think about this? Was the judge right? Should the brother have been forced to pay for a policy that he had no chance of benefiting from, especially when it was filled out incorrectly? It's a classic case of shared responsibility versus individual gain. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'll explore the rest of this family's messy legal battle in our next video, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.